My Hero Academia's most controversial character asks the fandom, can you be gay and homophobic? My Hero Academia is a series that follows teenager Izuku Midoriya seeking to become a superhero. Donning the hero name Deku, he would quickly learn how to do so upon entering a hero academy for high school students, stopping numerous villains and country-ending threats along the way. With the series coming to an end, many have looked back on the franchise and began to note some rather polarizing plot points and characters. The most disturbing character by far being the boy infatuated with rope. Minoru Mineta is a classmate of Deku at their academy, UA High. While not completely insignificant to the story overall, he is relegated to a side character for most of the series. Though honestly, some fans may prefer he didn't show up at all. This can be easily understood when, during his first real scene in the series and after being saved by a female classmate from a villain attack, he compliments her assets and presses his face against her chest. He then proceeds to not so stealthily place his hands on her shortly after. Mineta plays a straightforward creep for most of the series, usually being punished immediately. When the boys and girls go to the sauna, Mineta attempts to climb the wall separating the two baths and join them. When he finds a hole peering into the girls' locker room, he wasted no time trying to peek. Over half of his dialogue has to do with his fixation on his female classmates, teachers, or pretty much any attractive girl in his vicinity. He even outright states he only chose to be a hero to impress girls. It doesn't help that he spends most of his early fights crying or screaming, which, while maybe understandable, only added to his long list of critics. To be completely fair, Mineta does still contribute more than just spouting creepy dialogue. His superpower only seems to be a joke at first but is used in a lot of creative ways. Mineta is portrayed as decently intelligent, and shreds some of his cowardice as the story progresses forward. He's clearly shown to be capable and willing to act on a plan to help his classmates even if those flashes of genius are immediately undercut by more disgusting acts. But with little screen time to develop or provide a more interesting foundation, his constant antics and creepy advances makes it very hard to feel anything for him. At least, not anything positive. The creator himself stated Mineta was based on his more creepy tendencies and tried to balance him carefully, understanding how poorly a character such as this could be received if it goes too far. But when you have thousands of fanfics with dedicated tags bashing the character, making him not a creep, or just erasing him from existence, then something probably isn't working. If this was a more professional essay, this would probably serve as a good lead-in to discuss the treatment of female characters in shonen, how different cultures view creepiness, or even further detail the creator's own failings and successes with his cast of female characters. Skipping ahead to just before the final battle, the Dark Hero arc is essentially the penultimate act of My Hero Academia. Following the disastrous fallout of the arc before this, Deku leaves UA High and attempts to hunt down the remaining big villains and master his abilities. Deku is eventually confronted by his classmates, including Mineta, who ask him to return to the high school and let them help in the final battle. Things come to a head when Deku attempts to flee, causing the group to chase after him. They do everything they can to slow him down, trying desperately to get him to listen to reason and trust them to help. After several near escapes and the combined powers of multiple students, Mineta manages to latch on to the hero-turned-vigilante using a chain of sticky balls and speaks. As the first translations hit Twitter, everyone could finally understand what Mineta told Deku. Mineta, I fell for you when you were scared and sweating buckets and quaking in your boots. Back when we found a path forward together. The way you were back then. Wait a second. I fell for you. That sounds romantic? And even the Japanese text indicated a more intense undertone. If Mineta is showing so much affection, then is he in love with Midoriya? And if he loves Deku, does that mean his entire character was actually the greatest deconstruction known to man? Reactions were swift. Many rejected their own romantic interests, unable to accept sharing anything in common with such a despicable creature. Others lashed out at the creator himself, angered at the audacity to have one of the most despised characters in the franchise be a member of the LGBT community. Just as surprising were the rare defenders of Mineta Proclamation, seeing this as a potential affair between two star-crossed lovers, coloring his interactions with Deku and the ladies in a new light. Reception was, ultimately, not positive upon hearing this news. While revealing your most creepy character harbored closeted feelings for the protagonist all along was definitely unexpected, it was also not the best way of showing representation. No one had a good answer to how fans should treat this development, and the fires would continue raging throughout the day. But as the dust began settling, more collected fans asked if this was actually true. Simply because it didn't really make any sense for such a big reveal to happen now, with these characters, after everything Mineta has done. People went back to the chapter and began analyzing the text to figure out one simple question. Is Mineta actually bi? No. No, he isn't. Turns out the English translation slightly mistranslated the original text. The original dialogue was more of a platonic show of support and encouragement rather than any dramatic confession. The phrasing and word choice just didn't quite match what the creator was going for. Disappointing to the 10 new Dakuneta fans out there, but much more logically sound than a love confession would be. And sure enough, Mineta would not act any differently towards Deku following these events. With that crisis averted, fans could go back to hating the character as much as they pleased. And with the Purple Devil pretty much sidelined in the story since, along with any chance to carry out his more egregious acts, it looks like the tyranny of the great boy has ended. Whether it be through fanfics, fan art, or written essays, the era of Mineta bashing has returned to its proper order.